Hello and welcome back to the Doubles Take podcast. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for your support and for listening. I really appreciate it. And if you're a stunt performer listening or you know someone who you think would make for a good interview, you can send them or you can just DM me at the Doubles Take on Instagram, or you can send me an email, thedoublestake@gmail.com. That email address is in every single description of every episode. Or if you just know of someone who you think would make a good interview, also DM me and I can try to set something up there. But I have a really fun interview today. It's with Jordan Scott. He's been Zac Efron stunt double for a bunch of movies, Neighbors 2, Dirty Grandpa, and he was also Zac stunt double for the really one of my favorite films of 2023. Such a great film, The Iron Claw. So we talked about his experience on that and doubling Zac on Iron Claw. He's also worked on Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, Endgame, and a bunch more, so it's a really fun one. Let's just get right into it. So hi Jordan, thank you for coming onto the show today, the Doubles Take. I really appreciate it. This podcast is dedicated to stunt performers and telling their stories and kind of hearing their side of the film industry and what they do exactly. So the first question I like to ask every person that comes on the show, just as an intro, and I like it because each person has kind of a different answer. And as a stunt performer, what do you do?
Man, that is a great question, and I love that you leave it so open. And first off, I just want to say thank you for appreciating what we do and bringing some light to it. It's pretty cool. What do I do? Man, so I train in all kind of weird stuff. Everything from I've done like trapeze stuff for a movie, to motorcycle stuff, to boxing, martial arts, flipping, handstands, a lot of stuff on wires. And basically, I look at my job as like always sharpening my skills, always learning that stuff, always doing something to make myself more valuable or more prepared and more likely to get hired because I've got more skills and just be, more proficient at the job. So I think that like that as a performer, that is what my job is. And then once you get on set, the hard work's usually done because you should have the skill and then it's just I mean it's not all fun, but man, it's a lot of fun at that point. You're getting paid and you're doing what you love, and you're pretty much hopefully most of the time we have time to previs and work on the stunt before the day. That way it's all dialed in, and on the day we can really just perform at our best. But yeah, that's pretty much what I do. I mean, like I research all the time, like what movies are going on, what's filming where, who's in
Mm.
what. Watching movies is a part of our job. Traveling, networking is a part of our job. As far as just staying connected with good people and keeping good people on our team, and making sure we're all rising together. But
Hmm.
yeah, man, it's a crazy job.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds awesome. I've been doing this
It's
for
so
a
hard to.
few. Yeah, I've been doing this for a few months, and it seems so awesome. I love hearing each person talk about it. And so I have to ask, what exactly got you into stunt work and the industry? Did you grow up loving movies and wanting to do this, or was that something that came on like later?
For me, it was kind of out of the blue because film wasn't really an option in my eyes. I grew up in Georgia, and I didn't really hear of anything that was filmed there except like fried green tomatoes, which was really cool. And so when The Walking Dead came, I was working at a gym and I was training for an MMA fight and was training in MMA like 4, 5, 6 days a week,
Hmm.
lifting weights every day and just focusing on like personal training and things like that. And John Bernthal came into the gym and we just hit it off. He was looking for a punching bag and I didn't recognize him from the show. And he told me he was a professional boxer. And I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. So me and him clicked really quick and started training together. And we hung out for we actually hung out a couple months. And then he handed me the first season of The Walking Dead. And he was like, check this out, man. Tell me what you think. And I actually saw him a couple more times before I actually watched it. But when I watched it, he was like immediately. I'm like, oh man, he's like one of the main characters. So that was really when it hit me that he was actually like this big actor because I never
Hmm.
really looked at him like that before, and I still don't really look at him like that. But So he got me on as a zombie after hanging out with him for a while. He told me I was going to hate it, but I convinced him that I was going to love it like I knew I would. Yeah, man, I did that for like 3 seasons, just being an extra, but they'd always give me really cool parts and really cool opportunities to perform and have fun and just create some cool zombie that gets killed or kills somebody or something.
Yeah.
And so I did that for 3 seasons as an extra. And I was also just tried to be a part of anything I could, any film as an extra that had stunts, so I could get close to stunt coordinators and meet other stunt performers. And so I did that. I was probably on, I think I was on over 50 productions as an extra before I actually got my first SAG contract, and I got that on the movie Insurgent. I was a specialty background, so we were like one of the soldiers running around in the background for like 2 months, and then I stayed in contact with the stunt coordinator, let him know how important it was to me, let him know how hard I was working at it. I was sending him video like once a week. I would send him like all the training I had done that week, and I was doing everything from rappelling to driving stuff to weapons to firearms, all kind of stuff. So I just did that for a few weeks, and he saw how important it was to me, and he gave me my first shot. That was Wade Allen and Darren Prescott. Those guys gave me my first legit SAG role, 2015.
Wow, that's so cool. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so now have you grown to kind of, I mean, to love it now? You know, is it what you kind of dreamed of?
Yeah, man, I do. I still love it, man. It's like I still have to pinch myself. And it's cool because we have downtime where, you might not work for a while. We just got out of the strike. So the industry is very weird. So it goes away and it comes. It's very high highs, low lows.
Hmm.
1 minute you're like, oh, I'm on this production, and you just feel on top of the world. And then it wraps and you're like, oh shit, I'm unemployed. you know, and then you got to find another job. And every time the phone rings, it could possibly be something ridiculously dangerous. So
Hmm.
you're just kind of like waiting for the phone to call to do something crazy, which is always a crazy feeling.
Hmm. And now, so I wanted to ask you about Iron Claw. I understand you were the stunt double for Kevin Von Erich, played by Zac Efron. First of all, I want to say
That
I
was
love the movie. I've seen it twice. It's awesome. I love it, and I'm a big pro wrestling fan. So going in, I was really excited because I love pro wrestling and I love movies. So when I heard that was coming out, I was so excited. Sorry, back to the question. Now, being a stunt
no,
double,
it's okay.
what exactly, does that entail? And do you do more or less depending on how much like the actor wants to do?
That's a great question. So Zach is a beast and he's a great athlete and he's very, very involved. So most of the time he does almost everything. And even if like we may come up with the choreo and then teach him, just to really save him time and just get it dialed in and he doesn't have to deal with a lot of the guesswork. But yeah, man, he wants to do everything. Even if I do it as well, they're like he wants to jump in there and do it. But other actors, they don't, there are certain actors that don't want to do anything. So they're just like,
Mhm.
hey, go ahead, bud. Here's your shot. Make it earn your pay, which is cool. I can appreciate both. And but Zach is just super unique to work with. He's just awesome. He's just so genuine and sweet and been so great to me. Just whatever he needs, man. I'm like happy to help.
Hmm.
I can tell you a really cool story
Yeah.
about how we got connected if you want. So we were on Dirty Grandpa, and they called me because they needed all this crazy stuff. So they needed somebody that had a good physique because there was a naked motorcycle scene. There was some handstand stuff. There was one arm push up stuff. There was just all this different stuff they were needing me to do. So this was my first time having the opportunity to double them. So after a while, they chose me. I went down there, and after we had been working for him for a couple of days, he came up to me and he said, "Man, I really like you. I think you're going to be doing this for me for a long time. We go to Hawaii for our next movie in 2 weeks. What's your schedule like?" And Robert De Niro's stunt double was standing there, the guy that doubled Batman for the trilogy where Arnold Schwarzenegger was one of the bad guys.
Uh-huh.
He was there, and they were just like, "Man, young man, your dreams just came true." So that was just
Cool.
an example of him just being so sweet and so kind. He's
Mhm.
fought for me a couple times where the coordinators wanted to use their guys, which is very understandable. So yeah, man, he's just been like an angel in my life, dude. He's just really changed my life and opened so many doors for me, and just really, really been a great friend and just a great human being.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's so good to hear. He seems really nice from what I've heard.
He's awesome, dude.
Yeah. And so how was the experience on Iron Claw? It's very acclaimed. Everyone's talking about it. How was it working on that set? It looked really, really fun, and it's kind of a really sad movie, really upsetting. So I'm
Oh man,
wondering.
so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're used to doing we usually always do comedies, man. So it's all fun and laughs
Yeah.
and jokes and like little, falling down and just doing stupid stuff. So
Yeah.
this was a real change. And even watching
Right.
some of the scenes be filmed, I was like, man, I wonder why he chose something so dark, but when I
Yeah.
saw the end product, I was like, wow. I was so proud of him, man. Just he did so well. He worked so hard in his physique, what he had to do to get there, which I'm a gym junkie, man. I love lifting weights and just all the bodybuilding stuff. So that was right up my alley. And so we were able to really just push the limits on that and just get as absolutely jacked as we could, which
Yeah.
comes with a lot of crazy stuff, the diet and just trying to do ice baths to recover. And I
Right.
mean, he had like he literally had an ice bath right outside of his trailer that he was
Wow.
using on set. And yeah, so it was intense, man. That was a really fun movie though. All the actors were super fun and really nice to work with. The director was great. He had a very specific style, which was really cool to work with. I actually had to drive a couple of vehicles with him in the vehicle with the director and the cameraman, which was
Hmm.
really cool listening to them and being able to watch them work. Yeah, but it was really fun, man. I felt so blessed to be a part of it and so blessed to be a part of something that people appreciated so much, that resonated
Right.
with their childhoods and just their love for pro wrestling, which I grew up watching pro wrestling. My favorites were like Undertaker and Hulk
Yeah.
Hogan and
Yeah.
Ultimate Warrior and
Yeah.
Sting and those guys. So I was a little bit later in my generation as far as what I was watching, but yeah, I had a great appreciation for it for sure.
Well, that actually leads me really leads me into my next question, and I imagine this film was different than other ones you've done because a lot of the stunts, right, were pro wrestling related versus like action sequences, and in pro wrestling, I know when they're doing it live, and so it's hard to you can't really hide stuff because there's cameras all over. So I'm wondering how it was translating that and kind of executing those stunts in a movie atmosphere.
Well, they brought in a lot of really great professional pro wrestlers, to help come up with the choreo and everything like that. So yeah, those guys were super involved, and they helped keep everything safe. And I thought they did a great job. I thought all the scenes looked really, really great. I thought
Hmm.
Zach, his performance looked really great. I thought he did a great job of mimicking, his character. And but yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, the choreo is always one of my favorite things to do. But the pro wrestler guys were really key in coming up with all that choreo and things like that, and teaching the moves and things.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's grateful to be a part of.
Yeah, yeah. I have to ask you about Avengers Endgame. I see you worked on it, and I know, it's one of the highest grossing movies of all time. They had those huge battle scenes. I imagine those were crazy to work on with a lot of people working on those. How was your experience working on that and like a set that was really dominated by CGI and effects?
So that was a lot of fun. It was kind of like an honor just to be part of that final battle scene where all the superheroes were there. So I was kind of standing on the front line with so many legends. It was
Hmm.
really, really surreal. But I
Yeah.
was also I was one of the Ravengers, so I was in this prosthetic that covered my whole head. And so I
Whoa.
felt really weird as well. I had like this huge prosthetic all over my face. So I knew like nobody was really going to recognize me, even my friends that were there. And then I had like this long hair, but it was crazy, man. We were just like sprinting at like a green screen in this big studio, and it was like with dirt floors, which was really strange. And they had cameras on wires flying all around, and it was funny. One of the times I was running, and I mean, we were just all out full speed. Black Panther, he was just taking off. We couldn't even keep up with him. It was really cool. It was actually, they did that in the scene as well, and I'm sure they added some CGI to that, but he was really taking off on us. His stunt double was great.
Yeah.
But the camera was on a wire and it was coming at me, and I didn't see it until like the last minute. It was in the corner of my eye, so I just had to throw my body into the ground, into the
Whoa.
dirt to miss the camera from hitting me. So that was pretty crazy. And I was
Yeah.
glad that all the stunt guys that were running in the pack were intelligent and aware enough to be able to not just trample me, because it would have been understandable. But
Yeah.
yeah, it ended up being fine. That was great.
That's wild. That's wild. When you watch movies, that you've worked on and taken a part in, do you like go back and watch them, try to look for yourself and see like where you are? I've always wanted to ask that. Do you do
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
that?
Most everyone, I want to see like my performance and see what the final product was.
Hmm.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
really
some of them
cool.
are hard though, like Endgame. You know,
Right.
it's just so fast and so many people. You know, you're like, what does that mean? Like, does that mean? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of weird.
Yeah. Yeah. And now one of the like a big reason I'm doing this podcast is I'm a huge fan of action movies and stunts. And I love the Oscars and award ceremonies, and I kind of find it weird and kind of ridiculous why the Academy doesn't recognize stunt performers and doesn't have a stunt category. So I always like to ask how you feel about that, and why do you think there hasn't really been or why is there no stunt category at the Oscars, and is that being talked about in the community?
It's definitely talked about in the community. There's definitely guys that fight really hard for it, and I respect that, and I honor those guys. You know, they definitely I feel like they deserve it. I don't really care. It doesn't really matter to me.
Hmm.
I don't really watch the Oscars to be honest with you, but I can understand like stunt double wise. Stunt
Hmm.
doubles are kind of like if you're putting a lot of light on the stunt double, you're taking away from the actor and you're taking away from the story. I feel like you know you don't want to when you're watching something think, oh, that's the stunt double. You know, you want to think that's the. You don't even want to think that's the actor. You want to think that's this character, and this character is doing all this. So I can understand how it would take away from the story. But as far as stunt coordinators and people that are designing action and you know different performances, I can understand. You know, oh they need to be recognized. But yeah, for me, I'm not too worried about being recognized or any kind of awards or anything like that. You know, I
Hmm.
just want to perform and do what I love. You know,
Yeah, exactly. And are there any favorite stunt stories or stunts that you've taken part of?
man, my favorite stunt or just like a good stunt story.
Both.
Okay,
Whatever you want. Yeah.
okay. I'll give you a good one.
Okay.
So I was doing this movie for Zac Efron,
Hmm.
and there was a naked motorcycle scene. So I get on the motorcycle, you know, and I take off and I have to do it a bunch of times, you know, and I'm at first I'm kind of nervous, but then I'm on the bike and I'm like driving down the strip on Tybee Island, which I've gone to 100 times as a kid, and there's like people all around, and I'm like, man, when can I ever do this again when I don't get arrested? You know, this was actually pretty cool. So I parked the bike, and then we're about to put Zach on the bike, and his security comes up and he says, "Hey Z man, there's a paparazzi up there taking pictures. You want me to run them off?" He's like, "Yeah, man, if you don't mind, you know, run them off for me." I'm like, "Man, where were you at when I was just driving up and down the strip, but naked all night, you know?" And so like the next morning I wake up and the pictures are just all over the internet, just like shot for shot, like as I'm getting on the bike and like it's yeah, it was so that was pretty great.
That's crazy. That's crazy. And then did you say you had like a favorite stunt that you've taken part in or executed?
I'd say my biggest wreck would be probably Neighbors 2. I had
Hmm.
to jump from like 2 stories straight to my back through this table.
Through that
And
table,
it was
right?
just yeah, it was
Yeah.
just such a wreck, man. It just to just go, you know, just to turn off the self-preservation and just like jump to have landed so perfect. And then like and Zach was like taking a video of it. And when I got up, Seth Rogen was like, dude, that was fucking awesome. And like my buddy Aiden was there and this guy that's there at like every all of my big stunts, a mentor of mine was there, and just so many cool people were there. Like when it happened, it was just that I was able to share it with. It was that was a really great one. Now, and then just to pop up and not be injured, you know,
Right.
was really cool.
Right. Is there any like a movie or franchise or anything you would like to like do stunts in or be a part of?
The Superman movie is about to start filming, and I would
Yeah.
really love to be a part of that, man. That's gonna be really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's- yeah. I'm hearing that Punisher's coming back. I think
Hmm.
that'll be in New York.
Yeah.
That's John Bernthal, man. That's my dog. I'd love to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Man, I love comedies, man. I love comedies. Anything with a great message. And I'm actually writing a script that's kind of like a
Whoa.
Joker story.
Uh-huh.
And I would really, really love to bring that to life. I think it's a cool story, great character development, and just very interesting. I think you'll really kind of fall in love, hate the character.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that sounds so cool. Is acting a thing that you would like to do in the future? Is that something that you like doing?
I love acting. I just love performing in general. If you look at my reel,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of performing, you know. It's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's a lot of me being characters. And I just finished a movie called Crimson Cove where I was a pretty big character on it. And
Okay.
it was a really cool character that speaks to myself and also a really good friend of mine that passed away. It was kind of like a mixture. This character was kind of I kind of made him a mixture of me and this friend of mine. And
Mm-hmm.
they actually even let me name the character after him, Michael Jackson.
Oh, that's
So
really cool.
yeah, yeah, and I got in a couple of fights in the movie, and I just whooped some ass, and it's just really cool. So yeah, I love performing, man, all around.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's really cool. And I just have like one more question. Do you have a preference? Like, do you
Sure.
like, I've talked to a bunch of different some people who say that they like a bunch of prep, or then some that like saying they like doing just improvising on the day. Do you have a preference of what you like to do?
It depends what it is. I'm a guy that likes to be prepared. I
Hmm.
like to, there's improv. There's definitely something to be said for improv, but
Hmm.
like, and even some of the like on the movie we just finished, a lot of the lines we did improv, but
Hmm.
we still kind of knew we were getting from A to Z.
Right.
So I'd like to say, as far as stunts go, I like a lot of prep, man. I like to be able to really come up with the choreo, get it really dialed in perfectly. And then, if something organically comes up on the day and we have like this great idea, or just like there's a resource in the room we can use, that we see, that's cool. But yeah, I like prep, man. I like to show up ready.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. And I don't want to take up too much of your time. So lastly, is there anything you want to tell our listeners or people listening, like promote anything you have going on?
Crimson Cove's coming out. That's going to be really cool. Yeah, just watch for me. You'll see. We got a lot of stuff coming up.
Okay.
Just wish me luck.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, I wish you luck and thank you so much for being on today. I
Thanks,
really
man.
appreciate it. I really wanted to hear about your stories and just how your time as a stunt performer. So thank you very much.
Cool, Angelo. Thank you. Nice meeting you, man.
It was so fun getting to interview Jordan Scott and talk to him about one of my favorite movies of 2023, The Iron Claw. If you haven't checked it out, I'd highly recommend it. It's so, so good. And thank you once again to Jordan for being on the show. There's a new episode of the podcast every Friday, and it's streaming on all platforms wherever you get your podcasts: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and soon there'll be episodes streaming on YouTube if you like listening to them on there. But that is all for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week.